Okay, and we are live, but we got to let it breathe, baby, just for a moment while we bring on our glorious Facebook family. I don't know what we do without you. They're not even in the room yet. I don't know what we do without them. Let's just put it that way. Welcome in, everybody. It is the Mile High Huddle podcast. I'm your host, Chad Jensen, and with me, as always, my fellow football priest, who you know, who you love, Zack Kelberman. Zack, not much today on the news wire relative to the Broncos, but there was an interesting article that was published by PFF today. I found it to be most illuminating. Long story short, there's actually quite a lot in the article that I want to get to today. But first things first, the main takeaway being that amid all the kind of crappy grades PFF has dished out to the Broncos on their overall draft haul, and of course taking Bo Nix, the basic read and prediction is that Bo Nix should be day one starter at quarterback for the Broncos. Your reaction?
Breaking news. I don't know. I mean, maybe again I'm the wrong person to ask, Chad, but there's a reason why they took Bo Nix at 12. The reason why Sean Payton fell in love, and the reason why they're not pushing forward with Jared Stidham, Zach Wilson, and Ben DiNucci. I just think we're at the point right now where we're waiting for rookie minicamp to start. That's my take on it.
Yes, and it's going to be an exciting. I mean, by the time we get to rookie minicamp every year, Zach, we're all dying for just a little something, a little anything Broncos. But this year in particular, where you've got the new quarterback, plus you've got a quarterback tryout invite, it's going to be interesting. I can't wait. The 10th later this week.
And there's a problem if Bo Nix isn't the week one starter. It'd be one thing if there was an Alex Smith and he'd be the Mahomes in this case, but when you have to beat out Jared Stidham, DiNucci, and Zach Wilson, I mean, you should do that for the 12th overall pick.
This is true. Guys, we see your super chats. Keep them coming. We are, of course, as you know, we're going to get to them no matter what. We're really excited tonight. Of course, it's Monday, and as what we've been rolling out this offseason, this is the night for our super segments. We're really excited to have Keith Brugman on tonight, pick his brain on some of these issues, get some of his feedback and grades on the NFL draft and the Broncos. But first, we got to talk about AG1, because the older I get, the more seriously I know I got to take care of my health and nutrition. That is, in fact, where AG1 comes into the picture, because no matter what you do for a living, it can become all too convenient to rely on that coffee and caffeine for that extra energy and focus. But it's not great for your body, especially if you're getting a little bit up there, let's say north of 40, like your boy here, and you got to start worrying about blood pressure, among other things, plus the dreaded crash. But with AG1, I get sustained energy, not reaching for that second, third, fourth cup of coffee or energy drink in the afternoon. And on top of that, I can't stand the big multivitamins, trying to swallow those things. So we also know, of course, how important gut health is, probiotics. AG1 checks all three of those boxes and does so in an impressive, life-altering way. We're talking focus, energy, nutrition, improved gut health, all in one delicious smoothie. AG1 is next level stuff.
Yes, sir. AG1 is the supplement I trust to support my whole body health and help me feel my best. If you want to take ownership of your health, it starts with AG1. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3, K2, and 5 free AG1 travel packs when you first subscribe. Go to drinkag1.com/huddle. That's drinkag1.com/huddle. Check it out, Broncos country.
A great partner in AG1, and we appreciate him. We appreciate AG1's great stuff. All right, without further ado, we got a quick super chat. Then we're bringing on the man, Keith Brugman. David, the Papa Bear, thank you, bro. So good to see you. Saying good evening to everybody, and his creative hashtags: Bo knows, Nix for 6, MHH for life, Buckham ×3, baby. Let's go. Denver Broncos for life, Nix superstar. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Mike, thank you. Jumping in the ronk, as we say here at MHH, with some at the beginning, ushering things in, some stars on Facebook. Really appreciate you, big dog. And then maybe we hold on to Sam Bam, for a minute. We'll grab Sam Bam in just a second. Hang tight, Sam. Guys, we're going to bring on Keith, who is a great member of our community and also a great content creator, contributes to Broncos country in more ways than one. Without further ado, let's grab him right here. Keith Brugman, what's up, dude? In the house. How are you, big dog?
Doing fantastic, man. Just happy to be here. Happy to be part of your show. It's fantastic to be
Yes.
here for Broncos country.
Yes, Keith, of course, is the owner of the Rocky Mountain Sports Network. He's got his own gig going on in this realm of Broncos media. Plus, of course, he is the host of the Denver Bronco Roundup podcast with a familiar face that many of you, of course, know and love, Albert Knoppers, amongst other great personalities over there. So be sure to check out their show. But Keith, got to pick your brain on a few things. First things first. I mean, we're going to get into some of the topics that the PFF brought up in this article, but what was your main reaction, your gut reaction to the Broncos taking Bo Nix at 12? 6 quarterbacks going in the top 12. What was your reaction?
My initial reaction was too early. I thought that we could maybe trade back, still get Nix later in the first round. I'll be honest, though, after all the news came out of who was trying to get where and trying to trade up and maybe that we're interested even in Bo Nix, I'm glad we got him when we did. We didn't trade up. We didn't mortgage the future. We stayed put, and we got our possible quarterback of the future.
Keith, I have a question that everyone wants to know the answer to. Maybe you can help me out. Super serious matter. What number is Bo Nix going to wear?
I think he has to wear the 10, right? I think it'll have to be switched out with Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson will get his own number, a different number, but Bo Nix has got to be wearing the 10. He's got to be rocking the 10. It was like, 24 hours difference, 48 hours difference between Zach Wilson and Bo Nix. Get the guy his number.
By the way, I hope I can find this quickly to give this person credit because this is one of those dough moments, like Homer Simpson. Alan Clinch on Twitter reaching out to remind us as we were going through this last night, talking about the jersey number thing and the new changes that have been going on over the last few years. Quarterbacks can only wear 0 through 19, and that is according to NFL operations for what it's worth. So our I think it was Lawrence Rivera going, yeah, number 23. It's like, it's not going to happen, and that's okay by us. But okay, so I think that was a pretty common, Keith, amongst Broncos fans' reaction to the Bo Nix selection, where it's like, well, I've read some things, I've done my own analysis. I think maybe in a perfect world, I would like to have gotten him a little bit later, maybe a trade back. But you had the Raiders there. We later learned the Rams loved him. Probably were going to take him if he was there. But how are you feeling about him now? You said possible. Of course, this is the reality of the situation. We don't have a crystal ball. What's up, Lawrence? Appreciate the stars, big dog. We don't have a crystal ball. We can't say for sure he's going to be the franchise quarterback of the future. But how do you feel about him as his outlook anyway, as being that guy, especially knowing that Sean Payton is the guy who drafted him?
Yeah, I think if you look at the fit, right, here's a guy that goes out and he completes over 77% of his passes, throws up 3 interceptions, I think, last year to an amazing amount of touchdowns, over 4,000 yards. He's just a guy that fits the system. And a lot of people say, well, he did that all in short checkdowns. He didn't throw deep. He doesn't have that long ball. I'd say that's not the case if you go look at the tape. And B, even if it was, he's completing 77%. He's still beating those defenses when he has to throw short. That's something that's still very translatable, and I think will definitely work and help, especially as being a rookie quarterback coming into the NFL.
I'm listening to you, Keith, and you make such an outstanding case for Bo Nix at 12, and I have to kind of push back on what you said. Why was it too early in your mind? I know it was your gut reaction, it's probably a little more emotional, but why was that too early for Bo if he was such a good fit for Sean Payton?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think overall, I think we get a little bit of media pressure even as hosts of shows, right? And we start to listen, kind of like Sean Payton said, if you start to listen to the NFL media and you start to listen to what they say, you're going to miss out. You're going to miss out on a Patrick Mahomes possibly. He wasn't going to do that. He made sure that he took his guy, and I'm glad that he did because, like you say, in retrospect, you start looking at how everything kind of stacks up. It looks like a fantastic choice and maybe one of the better positions a rookie quarterback is going to coming into a Sean Payton offense and a team that was really close to making the playoffs last year.
That's true. I mean, in a perfect world, when we were talking about it on the show before the draft, and we get the questions and the supers, which we always love and appreciate, of course. But, in a perfect world, would you have liked to have been able to trade back, to say 19 with the Rams or something? Because there were some rumors that might happen. and still get Bo Nix? Sure, absolutely. But I was like, man, if he's there at 12, don't look the gift horse in the mouth. There was when the Broncos made that pick, yeah, I was excited, but it was honestly more of like a feeling of relief that the Broncos did the smart play and didn't roll the dice. And, then we go into 2024 without any kind of quarterback hope and all that. But let's move on to a couple other things here too, Keith, while we've got you. So the rest of the draft, starting with Jonah Ellis and then moving on to Troy Franklin and everybody else. How did you feel about the way the Broncos, after drafting Nix, went about kind of building the nest?
Yeah. Well, a little perplexed. I think that we definitely loaded up on some talented rooms is the only reason I was perplexed, right? Wide receiver, we seem like we have a pretty full room. Edge, we seem like we have a pretty full room. And those were the first couple of picks that came off. That being said, I think Ellis can be a difference maker and could definitely push a couple of guys out that we've come to know and love, like maybe a Cooper who doesn't stick around, possibly maybe a Browning being traded. I could see something like that happen. Same thing with Troy Franklin coming in. We are definitely going to see some guys get pushed out that we've been hearing about, whether it be a Brandon Johnson or a little Jordan Humphreys or someone like that we came to rely on last year. We've brought in great talent, but speaking of Troy Franklin, probably the steal of the draft. Again, a lot of guys have this maybe a second round talent to go up and get him in the fourth round. Should be a difference maker. My question, and I know I posed it to some of you guys, Zach, I know answer this is, who's it going to be, Mims or is it going to be Franklin? Because I think a lot of there's going to be, we're going to be fighting to try to get guys on the field, right? And I think that's a question of which one of those guys are going to get on the field.
For now, it's a good problem to have, Keith. But speaking of crowded rooms and getting pushed out, what about the backfield? We talked about it on yesterday's show with Javonte. You added Estime. You have Blake Watson coming in. How do you see it shaking out by week one?
Yeah, it's going to be a rough room to try to get some playing time in. Yeah. I think that right off the top, Javonte is going to get the first opportunity. He's a guy that really maybe some people even question whether he should even come back last year, or when he should come back. He comes back week one. He plays all the way through. He really was an amazing storyline that kind of got lost. But he's in a contract year. He's going to either go out there and be able to put up the numbers, or he's got plenty of guys behind him. But you're right. Between Estime, who I think is going to get a lot of first and second, and obviously a lot of goal line carries, you got Blake Watson that could certainly be a replacement for a guy like Javonte. Plus, you still have P. Ryan, you still have McLaughlin. It's going to be. I don't know how it's going to shake out. I think it's going to be an interesting training camp to see how this sorts itself. And again, maybe a trade before the beginning of the season with one of these guys, especially if we see an injury in training camp.
Interesting. We got Phil. Everybody knows Tucson Phil jumping in on Facebook. Appreciate you, big dog. And also giving some props here to Keith. Says, great to see Keith and get his insight. Buckham, MHH for life. Go Broncos. Love you, Phil. We also have Cody jumping in to say, once I almost did it. My saying came so close. Once Michael Penix got picked, it was too risky to trade back. That could have affected the arithmetic and the rationale, but I think the Broncos were going Nix there at 12 regardless. And then Sam Bam's waited long enough. I want to grab this for Sam, and then I've got one more for Keith, and we'll cut you loose. But Sam says, and thank you, Sam. He says, evening, Chad, Zach, Scott, and Broncos country, and of course, Keith. I think Nix needs to start unless he looks really bad in OTAs, camp, and preseason. He was drafted 12th overall for a reason, and he has 61 starts. Go Broncos. That is, thank you, Sam. Another big kind of obvious thing here for Nix projecting as the day one starter. He is technically and in fact the most experienced quarterback to ever enter the NFL draft. 61 starts, NCAA record. How much do you think that helps him, Keith? Bo Nix here as a rookie competing with the likes of Zach Wilson, who's a former, top 3 pick overall, Jarrett Stidham, a guy who he did look up to, who preceded him at Auburn. They were kind of two ships in the night passing by each other, etc. How do you think that experience serves Bo Nix?
It's going to serve him well. Obviously, coming into the NFL, and we don't want a Trey Lance type of experiment where we don't know what this guy brings to the table. This guy has laid it all out, whether it be in an SEC team like Auburn, whether he goes up to Oregon and he's an ultra competitor, changes his game. The 60 starts, the different types of offenses he's had to go through, the adversity that he had to go through is going to only help him in the NFL. The only thing I would say, though, is Zach Wilson, number 2 overall pick. When you start stacking up his college starts with his NFL starts, you're about at the same amount of starts that you see with a Bo Nix. And that's the only thing that Zach was like, how can it possibly be, Zach Wilson in the conversation? I think that's how he enters the conversation. If for some reason Bo Nix comes in and he starts to struggle, you have a guy with NFL experience already sitting in the wings with Zach Wilson that could come in and maybe start for the Broncos for a couple of games until Bo Nix is ready to be released on Broncos country, right? So that's the only thing I would say.
Keith, I had 2 more questions for you. You kind of just answered one. It was going to be, who do you think is going to be the Broncos backup in 2024 behind Bo Nix? I think it's safe to say Zach Wilson. Number 2, if you had to put your prognosticator hat on, I know we're a ways away out. He hasn't even been named the starter yet. What is an acceptable stat line for you? Let's say Bo Nix starts every game this year. What do you see him throwing for yards, touchdowns, picks?
Yeah, I mean, if you can go out there, you can get, 2,700, 3,000 yards, somewhere in that category. You're looking at, 25 touchdowns, maybe 12 interceptions. That would be a good start for him. Being competitive and getting wins, yeah, that would be great. But like you said, I think the stats and just the overall development of the quarterback is going to be the most important part. No more yelling on the sidelines, Sean Payton.
Absolutely.
All right, we've got a super chat message here from the GLP, as we lovingly call him, a bona fide Mount Rushmore member of our community, Gary Palmer, saying, "Great interview. Now I know, pardon me, why Keith asks such great questions. LOL." Indeed, this is a man that knows what he's talking about and does a great job with the Rocky Mountain Sports Network. And guys, you got to check out his podcast. Do a little plug for your pod when you stream, who's on it, all that stuff here before we cut you loose.
Yeah. Denver Bronco Roundup goes live every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, as well as Friday, 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. I'm on there, as well as my great co-hosts, Albert Knoppers, as you've already mentioned, Trevor Salzman, Jody Moncrief. 1 hour podcast every Tuesday, every Friday, 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Love to have you.
And what's cool about it, guys, is you can catch whatever we're doing at 6, boom, back to back right into what they're doing Tuesdays and Fridays anyway. So really, really cool. Rock on. Best of luck with all that. And Keith, my brother, thank you for making time for us tonight. It was great to get you on the pod finally. I've really been looking forward to that. And then hopefully we can get a chance to meet you one of these days. Maybe you'll make one of the pilgrimages. You'll join your boy Albert and come down to one of the meet and greets. We'll have that, hopefully a date on that anyway, by the end of this month. Feeling pretty confident about that. But Keith, thank you, big dog. Really appreciate you.
Chad, Zach, thank you very much. And hey, thanks for the inspiration. You guys are that in the podcasting world as far as Broncos country is concerned. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks you so
buddy.
much, Keith.
Appreciate you,
Check
Keith.
him out, guys. Check out his podcast.
Check it out. Keith Brugman in the house, working hard, grinding, doing his thing, and great insight. I mean, this is a guy, Zach, that always brings interesting topics, questions in the chat, when he chimes in with the questions and throws down stars and supports what we do here at MHH in more ways than one. Always gratifying to hear, inspiring others and whatnot. That's always really cool. But, they're grinding, they're doing their thing. And really cool to see Keith, hooking up with Albert and everything they're doing there with Trevor and Jody and whatnot. Really cool.
I love thinking critically, Chad, and Keith is one of the many people in this community that causes me to think critically. He put me in like a phone booth with Zach Wilson. And I had to think about what he was saying there. So I just love those type of discussions and conversations. Keith is definitely one of a kind. And again, you should all check out his podcast when he said he goes live.
Yeah. So now, questions early from like Doug. Appreciate you being with us on YouTube, Doug. Who's Keith Brugman? Now you know, homie. Now you know. And look, and also Ernie, we know, was looking forward to having Keith on the show. So big Ern, good to see you tonight, my brother. I'm seeing something from String Guy at 6'10" that kind of made me laugh a little bit. But the whole the whole Zach Wilson thing. I mean, look, dude, nobody was excited. I mean, I shouldn't say nobody. I shouldn't use an absolute. Very few Broncos fans were all that, thrilled with the Zach Wilson trade because at the time, Zach, with previous Bronco regimes, a move like that 3 days before the draft would have been a harbinger, would have been an indicator that we're not taking a quarterback. Like, by the way, in case you were wondering, yeah, even though we're badly in need of a future franchise quarterback, we're going to go ahead and try and convince ourselves that, we can compete with a middle of the road guy. We've got a few of the pieces instead of just biting the bullet and doing it the old fashioned way and going back to the well, taking the chance, developing the guy from the ground up. And so Zach Wilson comes in and we now know what his place in this is. And that is to be kind of the veteran fail safe Zach that can also, if it comes to it, offer you perhaps a little bit more upside than that. Because again, and I'm touching wood as I say this, I don't expect the Broncos to have to rely on Zach Wilson. But if for some reason they did, whether it was an injury to Nix or failure to launch or whatever, I don't foresee that. Sean Payton just gets more out of the quarterbacks that he works with.
Wasn't Jarrett Stidham that veteran failsafe though, Chad? I know he doesn't have the experience, but whatever. It's old news at this point. And you're right about the Zach Wilson trade. I think that came down on a Monday, and I was beside myself because I wasn't sure, like you were talking about, whether they would draft a quarterback. By Thursday night, though, I was like, who cares about Zach Wilson? The Broncos got their guy in Bo Nix. I'm fine with him as a backup. I'm fine if Sean wants to have another coal in the fire, whatever the expression is. But as long as they have that rookie leading the way, that's all I really cared about.
So, okay. All right. There's a couple things. Okay. All right. Interesting point here from Scott. Real quick segue. He's like, look, that's what I don't get here as far as Zach Wilson is concerned. Him as the backup, I think he's a third string guy trying to make the team. That could be true. Scott says 1-year contract. It's not like he's a redemption project. Definitely. And, Zach, they had the opportunity to pick up his 5th year, which obviously they did not. It would have been putting him on the hook for something like 22x million, whatever. But we know how much Sean Payton has professed his love for Jarrett Stidham. And even today, Zach, Bob Morris published an article talking about 4 potential cap casualties, et cetera, still that we could look at post-draft, like how the draft may have influenced it as well. Jarrett Stidham, he listed as a possibility, but maybe Scott's right. Maybe it's more Stidham is his boy, and they're bringing in Zach Wilson for a look-see type situation.
Maybe I've been looking at it all wrong, and Jarrett Stidham wasn't the biggest loser of it. Maybe it was Ben DiNucci that was the biggest loser. They brought in Zach Wilson, drafted Bo Nix, then brought John Matoka to the rookie minicamp. Maybe they are looking to upgrade the QB3 spot. We shall find out soon enough.
Some interesting things here from, well, actually, that's not the one I wanted to share. A couple things I want to touch on here, Zach, from this PFF article. And, again, this is all good stuff for conversation, gives us context. But in this PFF piece by, oh man, what's his name again? John Costco. That's right. There's some interesting stuff here, and I just want to read this. Quote, how Nix fits with Sean Payton. Quote, a Sean Payton offense, it's all about the quick game, dedication to the run game, and taking shots deep downfield. The quick game is heavy on stick and spacing concepts, 2 plays Oregon ran frequently, and from which Nix excelled. Nix already does a good job with his pre-snap reads and avoids negative plays, traits that Payton covets at the position. He goes on then to talk about a couple of the areas he needs to work on, including some of his footwork and just technical discipline. But this part here, Zach, the shot plays that Payton likes to call can be executed by Nix at a high level. His 95.5 passing grade on throws of 20-plus yards downfield ranked 3rd among QBs in this draft class, and his 28.3% big-time throw rate on such plays placed 4th. Sean Payton doesn't marry this play action with play action very often, producing the 3rd lowest rate in the NFL with Drew Brees and just a 22.8% clip with Russell Wilson last season. But the bottom line is, a lot of people, Zach, it's not so much shade, but media has created a perception that Nix just has a noodle arm, which is not true. Does he have like the strongest arm? No, but he has a good enough, let's just say good enough NFL arm. But he has no problem throwing it vertically, Zach, and he's got a pretty good track record for accuracy.
I mean, I posted 4 or 5 videos on my Twitter account alone of him throwing 50, 60-yard bombs to Troy Franklin in stride. I don't think arm strength is an issue. Is he ever going to have a hose like Patrick Mahomes? Probably not, but he doesn't have to. Because in the NFL, you watch even a Patrick Mahomes offense, it's not 50, 60 yards attempts down the field every play. It's nickel and diming. It's quick hitters moving down the field and then setting you up for the big play. That's what Nix does so well, and that's what Russell Wilson failed at. That's why the Sean Payton marriage this time, Chad, will be successful.
Well, and it's like the aversion that Nix does have to negative plays, and that's not just throwing interceptions. It's not just Zach, getting fumbles but it's sacks. It's just anything that leads to minus yardage or a turnover, or a less than ideal result. And I mean, he was hard to sack. Listen to your boy Jonah Ellis on that front. Just when you think you about got him, boom, the ball comes out, and it's really frustrating. Not only that, but like he just doesn't get sacked. Russell Wilson, meanwhile, sacked Zach 100 times in his 2 years. Think about that. 2 years as a Bronco, sacked 100 times. Your thoughts real fast, and then we'll grab Sam Bam. This is just part and parcel of why Sean Payton was like going overboard on the Tums last fall.
You and I would be screaming at Russ on the sideline too if we were Sean Payton. But it's like you said, it's not just the sacks, the turnovers, it's the missed opportunities, Chad. It's locking onto one receiver and missing a wide open KJ Hamler, for example, against the Colts, or running side to side and taking a negative play or an incompletion that wouldn't put you closer for a game-winning field goal, let's say. There were so many missed opportunities, so much meat on the bone that Russell Wilson left last season.
Excellent point. Sam Bam, brother, thank you. Number 2 super chat this evening. We love you. And by the way, Sam, when you going to come on the show, let's do it. Let's get you on the show. We've got segments coming up. Next week is booked. Really exciting announcement for who our super segment is next week. But the rest of May is still pretty wide open. And so reach out, Sam. You know how to get in touch with us. milehighhuddle@gmail.com. Also, what's the outlook for the tight end position, considering they didn't draft anyone and only signed 2 college free agents? Do you think the Broncos still believe in Greg Dulcich as the primary pass-catching tight end? Well, I think they believe in him as that because they kind of don't really have a choice to. We learned over the weekend that the Broncos did hope to add another pass-catching tight end, a guy that had some chops, not just a guy with some upside like the Utah kid, not just someone that, might be able to turn into that, but a guy that had a little proven something in the NFL. But the stars just didn't align, Zach, relative to the Broncos' salary cap situation and free agency. And then, of course, prioritizing Bo Nix at 12.
I would be shocked if the Broncos did not add a veteran between now and the start of week 1. They added 2 last year with Manhertz and Troutman, and right now all they have is Troutman atop the depth chart. Sam, I would love to believe in Dulcich and hope that he could stay healthy, but he's Jake Butt 2.0. You can hope in one hand and you know what in the other and see what fills up first with him. I think, though, they will add a vet. If not, Troutman leads the way. I do like, though, I wanted to talk about this really quickly on last night's show, Lucas Krull, what he showed in a little bit of limited opportunity as a rookie last season. I think he could be a dark horse in that room as a pass catcher.
Thank you again, Sam. Broncos country domination. What's up, dude? Thank you. Jumping in to say, look how many times the wide receivers last year had to come back for the ball. At least Bo can hit them in stride. Yeah, I mean, just putting aside, Zach, some of the things we've heard since the falling out, we'll just say since the Russ divorce, it was pretty clear that Russ was a sight eater, so to speak. If he saw it, he threw it. If he didn't see it, he didn't throw it. But in the NFL, Zach, it happens so quickly that you have to prepare and be confident and trust not only in yourself, but in the players around you and whatnot, and in your preparation and understanding of the defense to be able to throw with anticipation, throw into the future. Not only did Russ he almost never showed that as a Bronco, but as he's talking about here, really questionable accuracy unless he was throwing moonballs. It was frustrating.
That's the book on Russ. And also the fact that the Broncos had to ignore literally the entire middle of the field when he was under center. And you can't win in the NFL nowadays by ignoring the short and middle parts of the field. That's where your bread gets buttered. That's where, like I talked about before, you set up those nickel and dimes to take those shots down the field. You don't have to worry about that anymore with Bo Nix. And in fact, Chad, Bo Nix thrives in the middle of the field. So I'll say it again. Bo Nix's strengths are all Russell Wilson's weaknesses. How great is that?
Danny Powers, what's up, bro? Thank you for the stars. It's always great to see you. And you've really become a bona fide super supporter over there on Facebook. Keep it coming, big dog. We appreciate you. We got Cody Dub jumping in again. Super chat number 2 tonight, joining Sam Bam, saying, new kickoff rules. How often are you going to need a 50 or 60-yard bomb? 2 completions of 15, and you're in the red zone. Nix has got us covered on that. So, Zach, in case people may have missed it, explain that, the new kickoff rules and then riff off what Cody's saying here.
I don't want to say anything that's infactual because they keep changing it every offseason, Chad. So let's pull it up so we can
let me pull it up.
Find our details.
So this is from NFL operations, which, go ahead and make sure we use this as the I should have thought of this last night when I'm Googling it and stuff. Okay. So new kickoff rules. All right. So this is, this is March 26, 2024. So this would be post owners meetings. Okay. All right. Ball is kicked. Okay. The competition committee has passed for 1 year changes to the kickoff play. The ball is kicked from the 35-yard line, same as the current rules. Safety kicks would be from the 20 alignment. All kicking teams. Let's see. All kicking team players. 1 foot. Hold on. Landing zone in the. Hold on. This one's a little too litigious. Like it's like I'm reading a. I'm reading. Here we go. Like a piece of lawyer stuff here. Okay. This is NFL.com. Owners approved the hybrid kickoff rule on Tuesday during the league meetings. The move will dramatically alter the look and feel of the kickoff, a play that had become an afterthought as safety rules essentially wiped out incentives for a return. The past kickoff rule features new alignments for both the kicking and receiving units, a landing zone, the area between the receiving team's goal line and its 20-yard line would prompt action off the kickoff if the ball were to land in that sector. Kickoffs will remain at the 35-yard line, but the remaining 10 players on the kick unit will line up at the opposing team's 40-yard line. The receiving team lines up with at least 7 players in the setup zone, which is a 5-yard area between their own 35 and 30-yard lines, with a maximum of 2 returners who can line up in the landing zone. After the ball is kicked, the kicker cannot cross the 50-yard line, and the 10 kicking team players cannot move until the ball hits the ground or a player in the landing zone or goes into the end zone. That's interesting. So the guys can't move till the ball hits the ground or a player, that's interesting. So they actually get an opportunity to return it if it's not a touchback. The receiving team's players in the setup zone also cannot move until the kick has hit the ground or a player in the landing zone or the end zone. And then the returners may move at any time before or during kickoff. So clear as mud. Hopefully that explains it, Zach.
I see another addendum here. Under the new rule, any kick that lands short of the 20 will be ruled down immediately and marked at the 40-yard line. But then I'm wondering to myself, what kick would fall short nowadays of the 20-yard line? Mostly lands in the end zone. But I see the point you're trying to make here, Cody. If they have better field position, they should only need a couple completions to get into field goal range. But I'm not trying to get into field goal range or settle for the red zone. I'm trying to get touchdowns this year. I'm trying to do what Sean Payton envisioned with this Broncos offense.
Yeah. One other thing here, the legislation will also lead to a tweak in onside kicks, which can only occur in the fourth quarter and onward when a team trails. The kicking team must declare its intent to onside kick. The new rule is in place for 2024, subject to renewal in 25. That's lame. So like that awesome move Sean Payton made in the Super Bowl, remember that coming out of halftime with the surprise onside kick? Would be against the rules now. Yeah,
no more onside kicks, it seems like. And, those were increasingly becoming less successful, but it was still an exciting part of the game. And that's what the NFL does, though, Chad. You know, Roger Goodell, you can count on one hand how many things he's made better about the league since taking over.
But you know what? Still, the Broncos have an elite returner. I mean, literally Pro Bowl and All Pro in Marvin Mims. We'll see how much teams, how often. You know, look, it's kind of distorted being a Broncos fan and having 8 or 9 games depending on the year in Denver or Mile High, Thin Air, etc. But like, not every kick sails out the back of the end zone, right? Like, so this will be interesting to see. Think about this. Like, in the past, the ball is kicked off as soon as the kicker makes contact with the ball. The rest of the guys on coverage are running down the field, right? They're sprinting. A lot of cases, by the time that kicker gets the ball, man, like there's 5-8 yards away from the dudes that are full speed. They can't even start moving until the kicker decides or not to field that ball. That'll be interesting to see how that plays into not only hopefully more kick returns, but more productive kick returns, better field position, etc. Then we'll grab Sean.
Yeah, my takeaway is, better field position. You have a Pro Bowl returner and you have a quarterback that fits Sean Payton's style. No excuses not to have a more productive, consistent offense. Sean Ward saying, great podcast, guys. Thank you so much, Sean. Appreciate you tuning in tonight. He goes, I know we picked up some guys on the defensive line. Saw they picked up an edge rusher from Memphis, Jalen Allen. Do we know anything about him? I know he spent a lot of time in Memphis, South Texas love, Bo for sure. Chad, do you have any sort of...
Let me pull it up here. Let me go. Hold on one second. Stand by. Here we go. Again, I'm never going to lie to you guys and try to act like an expert on something that I'm not. Here's what Eric wrote about Jalen Allen when the Broncos, the reports first broke that he was signed. From Memphis, rush linebacker, quote, Allen has played almost 1,600 snaps over the last 2 seasons and picked up 58 pressures and 7 sacks. He's another lighter but quick athlete kind of pass rusher. So there you go. That's the book on Jalen Allen, which, it's kind of similar to Nick Benito, who has added some LBs since he's been a pro. Kind of similar to the guy they just took in the 3rd round in Jonah Ellis, although Jonah Ellis, Zach, does have a little bit of history as an off-ball guy. That motor, you can't question that dude's motor. I'll agree with him. Elite motor, Jonah Ellis.
Yeah, the Broncos have a lot of Robins, but, the more chances they take on some guys, the more likely it is that one of them pans out. And you can't have too many edge rushers, Chad. No such thing as that. So hopefully Allen develops, if anything, on the practice squad.
Yeah, so Jeremy, according to this press release, all right, NFL.com, the new rule, they can only a onside kick can only occur in the 4th quarter and onward when a team trails, and the kicking team must declare its intent to onside kick. So, yeah, for this season, no surprise onside kicks, which is lame. Like, okay, if you're going to tweak it to where it can only be if you're trailing and in the 4th quarter, Zach, fine. But at least then you actually have to telegraph that you're doing it and make sure they know that's what you're going to do. I bet the arguments Zach had to do with safety, player safety and needing to know, that's BS, dude. You just watered down the product in both senses. But, okay, I can understand it's only in the 4th quarter and only if you trail. Okay, I can try and make sense of that from a rationale perspective, but to remove the mystery, like to telegraph that you're doing it, like, this is professional sports. This is professional football. Like, you don't have to telegraph to your opponent what you're doing on a given play.
It's the same league and same commissioner that made pass interference reviewable for 1 season a few years ago, Chad, then, did away with it. It's the same commissioner that's causing people to think it's turning into flag football and losing the element that everyone loved for so many years. But we'll see. Still $1 billion entity, regardless.
Yeah, it's a basic, yes, DTR. It's basically like a 1-year trial. They're seeing how it works out. It'll be reviewed again, the owners' meetings next year. And if it adds to the excitement and Honestly, if it adds to the bottom line of point scoring in the NFL, it'll probably stick, or at least, the bones of it. So we'll see. Ronk, love you, big dog. Really appreciate you always throwing down support and contributing to the conversation. Keith jumping in with some additional insight. Touchbacks go to the 20. Kicks that go out of the end zone go to the 30. So you're no longer, they're trying to disincentivize, the Brandon McManuses at Mile High kicking it out the back of the end zone every time. They want to encourage returns, especially under this new rule. They want to see what it does. They want to see how these new strictures affect the bottom line. And for the NFL, the bottom line is offense scoring points.
Because points do what? Cause people to watch and buy tickets and merchandise and everything else. It all boils down to one thing, Chad.
That's right. Last thing here, Mike, and then we're going to dip out of here, y'all. Any word on the rookie numbers? Not yet. Not yet, bro. There's been some weird stuff going on from, who was it? KDVR.
Yeah.
Report.
Citing NFL.com, the profile.
Yeah, citing NFL.com. But you know what I just realized today? That number, 23, that Tremont Smith, that have NFL.com listed as, that's the number he was first given when he became a Bronco. They just never changed it when he moved to 1. So 23, so first of all, 1 is not available. There was a report that it's available and that the Broncos are going to go ahead and give the number 1 to Bo Nix, and that Tremont Smith, who has the jersey number 1, had moved to 23, citing and linking to an NFL.com player profile page where it shows him as the number 23. So the only available number that's not 7 or 18, under 20, right? Quarterbacks have to go 0 through 19. The only available, you can't even do 0. Jonathan Cooper's rocking that. So the only available number is 16, if and unless, Zach, Mr. Wilson opts to play some ball and give Bo Nix his college jersey.
Number 23 is a damn good movie, though, with Jim Carrey. If anyone who hasn't seen it yet, like some sort of psychological, thriller, it's a highly recommended flick. I haven't heard anything about the rookie numbers, Chad. I did see earlier that the new addition, John Franklin Myers, will be wearing number 98, previously worn by Mike Purcell. So that's all we know on the number front until rookie camp.
Guys, great conversation. Shout out to Keith joining the show, but we got a few messages for you, then we're dipping on out of here.
Tremendous installment, as always, of the Mile High Huddle podcast. If you're not doing so, please follow us on Twitter at the MHH Pod. You can follow the main account on Twitter at Mile High Huddle, Chad at Chad and Jensen, myself at Kelberman NFL, and Scott, our producer, at Scout Kennedy. If you guys want some merch like we're rocking, always, MHHmerch.com, get you some. If you haven't done so yet, please drop us a like at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. You can find us on Instagram at mile_high_huddle. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure you're leaving your football priest a 5-star review for a chance to win some merch each and every single month. But if anything, y'all, please subscribe, like, and share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans, just like you.
That it does. Again, shout out to Keith for joining the show. Appreciate you, big dog. Great insight. Loved having that chat with you. We look forward to meeting you someday at a meet and greet, hopefully. And then a great shout out, mile high salute to the Super Chat superstars and supporters, throwing down like Roy Osborne, saying, great pod, guys. 2 words for Keith. Nailed it. Yes, he did. Awesome stuff from Keith. Shout out to David McElrath, The Ronk, Sam Bam, Lawrence Rivera, Phil down in Tucson, Cody Dubb, Gary Palmer, Broncos Country Domination, Danny Powers. Much love and respect, you guys. Thank you so much. Zach and I are off till Thursday evening, which, by the way, for sure, Thursday night, we're doing the Facebook raffle for a jersey for the month of March, because we did hit the stars goal. So we will be raffling a jersey to the Facebook community. That is happening for sure. Book it, guaranteed. Live raffle Thursday night. And we'll see what happens between now and then. I have a sneaking suspicion, Zach, by Thursday we'll probably know what the jersey thing is going to be for Bo Nix and everybody else, but stay tuned till then.
I got Lawrence chiming in. Big stars for his new job. Congrats on that, Lawrence. It's very cool. Excited that you're sharing that with us. We look forward to hearing from you each and every podcast. Hope you're having a great Monday. I hope everyone out there will have a great start to their week. We will see you Thursday night. Take care. And as always, go Broncos.